Hello and welcome. It's a little over 6:15 p.m. across Cameroon. It is time for the news on Canal International. We hit the road on tonight's edition with the headlines bearing the vocal insignia of Kejang Henry Atembe.
Journalists in Cameroon question the strength of trade unions in defending the rights of journalists when in trouble, and as they question why they did not send an earlier alert on Martinez Zogo's disappearance, the union is now divided on who to protect and under what circumstance. And government backtracks in Canadian talks, sent out release saying no country or entity has been mandated to mediate in their internal affairs. And as government reactions go viral, the Canadian Foreign Ministry insists it has held 3 meetings with government officials. Welcome to the 6:15 News with Ntarike Divine Ramsey Jr.
Once again for keeping us company as the public outcry continues pouring following the rather callous elimination of the Yaoundé-based journalist Martinez Zogo. The Minister of Communication was earlier today spotted amongst those paying tribute on the premises of Amplitude FM in Yaoundé. René Emmanuel Sadi said he came along with the condolences of the government to Zogo's colleagues and siblings. Beatrice Ngamo.
From the time that Martinez Zogo was reported missing, I'm one of those who believe that a prompt action would have saved his life.
Elizabeth is a young journalist working with the Guardian Post newspaper. She tells me she's scared of her future in the journalism profession in Cameroon after the brutal assassination of a journalist and station manager of Amplitude FM in Yaoundé.
I'm more scared today than I was scared years ago.
Like Elizabeth, many other journalists are wondering on their protection and the future of the press as they question the role of trade unions and associations created to defend the rights of journalists.
The first role of every trainer is to protect the interests of its members, protect their lives, their interests, their profession, and to maybe go to the extent of training them on how to better execute their jobs. So right now, the syndicate has failed in the fact that they could not protect one of them.
That one journalist is missing, in that case, just that alert alone would have, pressure would have been, forced to bear on those who were behind the incident.
Putting on black is not the only thing I think us as a journalist we should do. I think we should push the button further.
Syndicate is to be proactive. The syndicate needs to know that there is no situation we need to minimize.
In Cameroon, the silence of trade unions like SNGC as a watchdog to defend journalists is demanding.
Press freedom, it is on paper. The reality is you have the freedom to speak, but after that, the freedom does no longer exist.
Anybody can use a journalist to sacrifice them on the altar of politics, on the altar of injustice and corruption. They can use a journalist to do any kind of specimen. So you are in a society where you are not saved. You don't know if you are even a citizen.
We as journalists, we need to be, tied down to our profession, respecting the norms and the deontology of the profession.
The death of Martinez Zogo has come to expose the limits of the journalism trade union to mobilize journalists to confront a common enemy. Many claim these can only be positive if they build solid associations and trade unions where they stand as one body.
All apologies there for that mix-up that was rather demurring with the ramifications and extrapolations following the rather brutal murder of the journalist. You could hear them there questioning the role of the associations and trade unions in ensuring their protection. Let's come back to our lead story because amongst those Paying tributes on the premises of Amplitude FM in Yaoundé earlier today was the Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, said he came along with the condolences of the Cameroon government to Zogo's siblings and colleagues. Beatrice Ngamo.
At about 12:30 this afternoon of January 24, Communication Minister and train arrived at Amplitude FM, the station of the assassinated radio host, Martinez Zogo. What coincidence, as the rebroadcast of the program Embouteillage was on air, the voice of the host echoing from the studio.
Détourné par qui? Des bandits. Vous imaginez, mes frères, des bandits. C'est pour cela.
Like all sympathizers, René Emmanuel Sadi also inscribed the message of the government to the colleagues and family of the fallen radio host at the funeral parlor. What the waiting room of the radio has been transformed to his honor. The magic room, the studio, where the late station manager always communed with the public during his famous embouteillage, the minister's next stop. The government spokesman then poured out the heartfelt condolence of the whole republic, adding to the national cry for justice. We firmly condemn the act on one of our compatriots, who was an emblematic figure in Cameroon, in the Cameroon, African, and international media world. Reason for my presence here, an opportunity to comfort the family of Martinez Zogo, his collaborators for the loss. The Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, went further to reiterate his presence is the expression of the wish of the head of state to continue to create in Cameroon conditions for the expression and exercise of public freedom and journalism profession in a condition of security, transparency, and responsibility. Consoling all the visits, but the cry for justice and for a liberal working environment, the wish of the press here in Cameroon.
Meantime, the Cameroon Journalists Trade Union, the CJTU, has issued a strong condemnation of the murder of the Amplitude FM station manager. It says it is time for united and concerted action against the protracted violations of the freedom of the press in Cameroon. Gladys Sambo attended a press briefing earlier today in Douala and brought back this.
Justice, that is what the Cameroon Journalists Trade Union is demanding for Martinez Zogo, station manager and animator of Amplitude Radio in Yaoundé, who was brutally assassinated by yet to be identified individuals. In a press briefing in Douala, January 24, 2023, the trade union called for joint action and solidarity in the fight against recurrent violations of press freedom. For a start, they have called on all journalists to dress in black on Wednesday, January 25, as a sign of mourning.
The SNGC condemns this barbaric act and call of the government of Cameroon to ensure that the perpetrator are brought to justice. All workers must dress in black on Wednesday, January 25, 2023, meeting with the Ministers of Justice, Communication, show to injure of the SNGC and demand the guarantee of the safety of its member.
Journalists raised questions on why trade unions did not react promptly by sending an alert when Martinez Zogo was kidnapped. In the absence of a convincing answer, the journalists were rather served journalism lessons, calling on them to be vigilant, respect the ethics and deontology of the profession, stay clear of predators, and avoid getting involved in the fight of the power holders.
When they announced that he was kidnapped, it was too late. Because if we were organized and very close to him, he will never be kidnapped.
The Cameroon Journalists Trade Union disclosed that of the 78 releases made public on Zogo's case, just 15% of them are from the profession and the rest from human rights groups.
On to something else now, as the government of Cameroon refutes claims it reached an agreement with Canada to spearhead peace talks on the protracting Anglophone crisis. In a statement issued late Monday, the Minister of Communication says the government is satisfactorily implementing the resolutions of the last major national dialogue as a means of resolving the crisis. Hyacinth Chia has been discussing with a couple of international relations experts and comes back on the tweaks of the development.
Cameroonians breathe a sigh of relief upon the widespread information that the Canadian government had opted to mediate peace talks between the government of Cameroon and the separatist leaders. But the government's outing in this communique by the Minister of Communication, Emmanuel Sadi, to reject such an agreement has cast doubt as to what went wrong with the process.
Now I begin to ask myself a series of questions. Who is saying the truth and who is not saying the truth? Because if the Canadians published it and even said the talks had started and Yaoundé was present, why has Yaoundé suddenly made a U-turn? Did the Pope Benedict XVI, equally lie? Because after his church service on Sunday, he equally made the pronouncement that he was good, the talks were going to resume, and that things be done as fast as possible to bring peace in the two restive regions.
I think that something is wrong in the sense that maybe the Canadians came out too fast to declare what was being discussed in the background.
Many have described the sudden U-turn as a manifestation of bad faith.
There is untold suffering in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. There's no saying about it. So I think some people who are benefiting from that illegal war economy want to continue to tie onto it. But when there is an opportunity where we thought that we could arrest that situation, and then some people are playing hanky-panky, I begin to feel that there is something wrong somewhere.
They underline that dialogue and mediation remains the only way out of the ongoing killings.
The time is now. We must put a stop because there are Cameroonians killing Cameroonians. There are young people killing young people.
The experts challenged both parties to bury all sorts of pride and personal interests and make peace reign in the regions.
And so, understandably, the enthusiasm with which some Cameroonians welcomed news of Canada opting to serve as mediator in the Anglophone crisis has suddenly evaporated. Kejang Henry Atembe has been wondering aloud 48 hours after the government made that statement, saying it mandated no one to serve as peace broker in the process. Here are his thoughts.
The press release by Cameroon's communication boss and government spokesperson Emmanuel Sadi on the declaration by Canadian Foreign Minister congratulating warring factions in Cameroon to sit on a table has caused another stir, putting all in a dilemma. And as Cameroonians and the international community, including the Pope and the Vatican, are applauding the big news, the government's epistle has eroded every iota of joy to see dissidents talk their matters. The diplomatic acrobatics between Cameroon and Canada has placed everyone wondering who is saying the truth and who is deceiving the world. Thousands of tweets and retweets, thousands of social media likes in appreciation of the outing by Canadian Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly have been blown into oblivion when Cameroon's Minister of Communication and government spokesperson announced that it had not entrusted any country or any external entity with any role as mediator or facilitator to settle the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The elusive outing by Cameroon's communication boss seemingly met a counter-reaction from Adrien Blanchard, press secretary to the office of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, who writes, and I quote, "We are in contact with the parties and our previous release stands," end of quote. The insistence of the Canadian Foreign Office to have held 3 meetings in Canada with representatives of the government of Cameroon cannot be taken lightly, to the extent of pushing the Episcopacy of Cameroon, the Synod Office and other religious authorities to extend letters of appreciation. Even separatist hardliners had congratulated the government of Cameroon when the Canadian office made the announcement.
First time, the Cameroon and the Amazonian states have joined together to put out a common statement. This is historic and this is huge. Congratulations to our leaders for their boldness, their courage, and the demonstration of unity.
From Minister Sadi's release, the authoritative tone cannot be taken lightly too, especially as he recounts the strides made by the government to abate the crisis with the current implementation of the resolutions of the major national dialogue.
Now, the Mbororos, and we're moving on to something else. The Mbororos constitute one of Cameroon's minority ethnic groups, with cattle rearing as their main preoccupation. Now, that may all be about to change with the coming to place of a new team at the helm of the Mbororos Social and Cultural Development Association, the Mboskuda, for the Northwest region. Sherifa Saleh, Anyi Collins.
This is the 12-man bureau that will hence run the affairs of the Mbororos Social and Cultural Development Association, Mboskuda, for the Northwest region. Headed by Barrister Yunusa Karimu, the 12 persons represent all 7 divisions of the Northwest region. The number goes up to 24 after the creation of 7 specialized commissions like agro-pastoral and women's empowerment for strategic reasons.
There was a project that we started, but unfortunately because of the socio-political crisis, we stopped it. But it's working. We want to revamp that project to have them go into this modern way of doing grazing, not running all over the hills and valleys, but to confine their cattle, make use of the cattle, just do grazing as an economic activity.
Reviewing the past 2 mandates of the outgoing Yaya Yakubu at last Saturday's elective General Assembly in Bamenda, Mboskuda program coordinator observed that Mbororos have to take part in building mainstream society where they are part and parcel.
We, Mboskuda, need to evolve and reborn itself to adjust to the current context. This is what we have not done, and this is the role of the leaders of the organization. That's why I say when we are united, when we are harmonized, when we understand, then we can come a very, very good strategic plan.
They may be living a bit away from the mainstream society. So if you want them to be engaged or to be involved, you have to bring them in.
One of Cameroon's minority groups, Mbororos are predominantly into cattle rearing and petty trading, from where government officials have been calling on them to evolve to higher heights through increased scholarization.
Of course, that was the voice of Stephanie Chin and not Sherifa Saleh. But we stay on with Stephanie Chin, who says that Cameroon's intermediate national football squad will under 2 hours confront their counterparts from Niger in their last Group E encounter at the ongoing African Nations Championships in Algeria. A draw will see Cameroon moving through to the quarter-final stage of the competition. It is, of course, a must-win for Niger. The winner of tonight's fixture will take on Ghana at the quarterfinals. Stephanie Chin.
Cameroon and Niger will face each other for the first time in the African Nations Championship final phase of the group stage. It is an opportunity for the intermediate Lions with 3 points at the top of the standing to defeat their opponents and qualify for the quarterfinal. Captain Dom Mokoko and his teammates will certainly not want a repeat of their 2018 defeat in Morocco during the second round of the African Nations Championship tournament. The winner of this clash will face the second qualified team in Group C on Saturday at 8 p.m. The intermediate Lions successfully qualified for this group stage of the African Nations Championship.
Unfortunately, that's how we replace the lead on tonight's installment of the news on Canal International. More news in French at 1950 with Alain Ghislain Kanga. In between, Lil Pedro takes over from me right away on the debrief. Our discussion will focus on the murder of Martinez Zogo and a look from the politicians. Take care and see you tomorrow.